Today's consultation, I'm going to talk about mental health. And the core to self-help is this little T-shirt. So I've been doing this thing about wearing a T-shirt to sort of prompt yourself. My self-help T-shirt to start with is I love me. Can you spend time on your own in the evening, Nick, and enjoy your company? Can you disappear inside your own mind and like what you find there?
I spend most of my time on my own.
The second bit, I did a film recently for the BBC. They did a health season about mental illness. And I talked about suicide, because suicide is the commonest cause of death for men under 45 still. So this T-shirt came from a young man with depression who tried to commit suicide a couple of times, and he said, I thought this was really interesting, depression is a liar. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, depression is like a little animal that sits on your shoulder like an angry gremlin, and it tells you lies. It says your life is worthless. What's interesting about this is when you get this cycle of negative thinking, men will rarely talk about it. So men have this horrible cycle of negative thinking and they never break out of it, and they go and they take what they think is a rational decision to end their lives. Women are more likely to talk to someone about it. So what you need to do is to break that cycle. If you've got someone telling you horrible thoughts, you need to bounce off and break that cycle. And there are lots of interesting groups like men's sheds and men's groups where people are being brave enough to talk about their feelings. Which brings me on to my next T-shirt. This is really interesting, sir. I'm not coping. Have you ever had the phase in your life where you couldn't cope, Nick?
Yeah.
And did you talk to anyone about it, or did you do that man thing of bottling it up and not talking about it?
Gosh, this is difficult.
You see, my biggest phase of not coping, I wanted to be a GP, and my GP training involved, ridiculously, me working on a special care baby unit. Now, my nickname at medical school was Dr. Ten Thumbs, because I'm really bad with my hand. I'm a real butterfingers, and there were two lovely nurses called Gillian and Jeddy, and I said, I'm hopeless at this, I can't do it, I'm a butterfingers, I'm going to kill these babies. And they said, let's do a job swap. We'll put the drips and the drains and the tubes in. You go off and get the coffee and hobnobs. So we did like a role reversal. I got out of that cycle of not being able to cope by sharing with it. And these wonderful nurses, that's what keeps you alive as a junior doctor, is getting on with the nurses. So the final thing I'll come up to, this is another T-shirt. Next time you go and see a doctor, wear this T-shirt. Are you all right, doctor? Studies have shown doctors and nurses and people working in the NHS are often mentally iller than their patients because they're under so much stress and they're not allowed to talk about it because doctors are supposed to be able to cope. But above all, for men, I say talk about it. If you're not coping, talk about it. Don't listen to that nasty gremlin who sits on your shoulder and tells you nasty lies.
Yes, sir.
You can break the cycle. Thank you.
Very good.